I am aware of 3 apologies, so perhaps even though it's not raining, people are a little unwell because it's cold, and they particularly asked for their apologies to be given. So Denzel Brown, Francis Weavers and Bob Stannard are all unwell today and asked that their apologies be given. So a warm welcome to everyone, to our speaker Carmen. You're going to be more formally introduced by Brian a little later. Susan Satyanan. Is Susan here? She's meant to be leading us in grace. So, Anthony.
I think I was being the standard.
You're the off-course substitute. Away you go.
There's a bit of a difference. We gather here in food and fellowship, and through food and fellowship we strengthen and renew our commitments to the values of Rotary, of fellowship, integrity, diversity, service and leadership. And we give thanks for our blessings.
Thank you. Now, before I welcome our other guests, could I remind you about your phones, please, turning them off or turning them down. We have 3 visiting Rotarians, and I wondered if they'd each stand up and introduce themselves. So, Howard, everyone knows Howard. Where are you sitting? Howard.
Nice to be here, Howard Tyler. I'm a member of the Port Nicholson Rotary Club that meets on a Wednesday morning, and past governor of this district, and really love to be back with you again this lunchtime. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Craig Horace, where are you seated? Craig, welcome.
Nice to be back here again with the Rotary Club that was formed and cheated us out of ex-president of the Rotary Club of Auckland, and the current zone ICT chair.
And Peter Garnett.
Thank you, Peter Garnett, past member of this club, and proud to have started my Rotary in the #1 club in New Zealand. I'm also proud to be the current governor of District 9 Waikato, and it's great to be back home. Thank you.
We have some birthdays today. Susan Satyanan, so clearly she's enjoying birthday with Annan, so we'll catch her next Monday. And John Gibbons, who is here today. Where are you seated, John? So actually his birthday was yesterday, so we'll have what's left in your wallet. Thank you, John. So now Ramsey's going to take the rest of the income from your wallets. Thanks.
When you're ready. Now, today we're going to be testing your knowledge on calendars, some of the world's calendars. When Patrick's ready. Wonderful, thank you. Left. Good. So, let's start with something simple. What is this, please? That's right. That is today in Roman numerals. Thank you. If you didn't answer correctly, please put $5 into the bowl. So, now, here's the question for you. 2016 years after the birth, we're told, of Jesus. So, what year was Jesus born? Was it the year 1 before Christ, the year 0 Anno Domini, or the year 1 of the current era? Any guesses, please? 1 over here. 1 BC over there. 0. Well, if you said 0, you're completely wrong, because actually there was no year 0. Went straight from 1 before Christ to the 1 of what I call the current era, Anno Domini. So if you didn't get that right, put $5 on the collection plate, please. So now, who is this man? And the calendar we use today is named after him. Say again. What?
What was the right answer for the previous?
Oh, the right answer in the previous slide was what, the year 1 of the current era. So that's the starting. That's what we're counting from. supposedly. But we'll see about that later. So yes, this is Pope. Who is this man? Pope Gregory. Fine, that's exactly right. He reigned from 1572 to 1585. And so if you've got this right, you can put $20 on the collection plate, please. Now, well, you know it, that's good. So the current calendar, what date was the Gregorian calendar adopted in England and Wales? Anybody got an idea? What year or what date? 1400 over there? 1700 down here? 1800, well actually it was the 2nd of September 1752. So that was 180 years after Gregory died. So if you didn't get that right, can you please put $5 onto collection plate, which you find in front of you. Now, when the English calendar changed, how many days were lost? Was it 10 days, 11 days, or 12 days? So what? There was 11 days over there. Anybody else? How many days did we lose from a calendar? Oh, well, it was actually 11. This means that landlords, of course, September of that year had only 19 days. So landlords collected a full month's rent from their tenants. So if you're a landlord, could you please put $50 onto the collection plate? Oh, well, I mean, you did well in 1752, so there you go. Now, around the same time, they also changed the day on which the year changed. So, after the 2nd of September, the next day was the 14th of September. So that was your 11 days. They just disappeared. So in 1750, when they started this process, what was the last day of the year? Was it the 24th of March, the 2nd of September, or the 31st of December? What was the last day of the year in 1750? Somebody said March. Somebody said September. Okay, actually it was the 24th of March. It was a quarter day, which meant that debts were settled on that day. So from the viewpoint of our calendar, what does that actually mean? It means that this was the shortest year in history, because the 24th of March 1750 was followed by the 25th of March 1751. That's how it was. And then the 31st of December 1751 was followed by the 1st of January 1752. Now that was the shortest year in history. So if your great-great-great-great-grandparents were English landed gentry, please put 50 gold sovereigns onto the collection plate. Now, of course, if you were from Scotland, they changed the first day of the year to January the 1st in 1600. So if your ancestors were Scots, now is your opportunity to show how warm-hearted and generous Scottish people are. Please put a $20 note onto the collection plate. Now, before the Gregorian calendar, what was our calendar called? And this is a clue. The Julian, that's right, Julius Caesar. It was the Julian calendar. My notes have gone all over the place. Here we go. So, how many days are we now behind the Julian calendar? Well, we heard earlier that we're 11 days behind, but if we look now, are we 9 days, 11 or 13 days behind the Julian calendar? Any ideas? 13. Yeah, that's right. If you didn't know that, please put $5 into the bowl. Now, can you see how difficult it is to try and find a date for the birth of Jesus? Because when we have all these calendar changes like this, it's just so difficult. So, where is the Gregorian calendar still used? There's a clue. Almost. It's Mount Athos, only on Mount Athos in Greece, where only males are allowed. They're all sows, ewes, cows and chickens were expelled. If you didn't know this, please put 50. It's true. $5 on the collection plate. Now, that's Mount Athos. How many people here have visited Israel? Let's just have a show of hands. Oh, quite a few. Okay, so this is the date according to the Hebrew calendar. Can anybody tell me what it is in English? Oh. Well, it's the 14th day of Sivan in 5776. So 5,776 years ago, God set aside 7 days and created this world. That's what I was told. It was Sunday school at the Jewish synagogue I went to in North London. 5,776 years ago. Now, talking of calendars, let's look at calendars in Islamic countries. In what year is... Oh, there you go. What? It's now it's 1437 according to the Islamic calendar. But in which country is it 1394? Is it Tatarstan, Iran, or Albania? It's Iran, that's right. Iran, it was interesting, I recently visited there. They've got 77 million people and 300,000 cooperatives. I learnt that when I was a keynote speaker at a cooperative conference in Tehran. Here in New Zealand, of course, as you know, we've got less than 200 co-ops. But the people in Iran wanted to know why our 200 enterprises are so hugely important. So it was an interesting debate. So have you noticed each time a religion is founded that they change the calendar? So it starts on an auspicious date. Now, here's almost a religion. What is the year in the Juche calendar of North Korea? Is it 4,349, 172, or 104? 104. My gosh, you must have been there. Very good. Actually, you're right. It is 104. 152, actually, 172 is the Baha'i calendar. I threw that in case there's any Baha'i. Is there anyone Baha'i in the room? No? I don't think so. Not many. Okay, so yeah, that's calendars, but I just want to take your time to say something I wanted to say last week, but we didn't have any time because our speaker took all the time. You got these, you got a letter from President Kerry. You've got a flyer telling you how to bring members into the club. You've got 6 flyers about the club and 6 business cards. So please put them to good use, because I'm sure that you're here because you want to see good being done. Now, with this number of people, we can do so much good. If we brought more people into the club, we could do even more good. So please bring in some more members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ramsey. Now we have 2 5-minute speakers today. One is Peter Lawson, who's going to give us a brief update on where things are at with the Rotary Club of Wellington Trust, and then he'll be followed by Laurie Wilson, who's going to tell us a little bit about his background. So, Laurie, if you'd like to come up as soon as Peter's finished and give us your 5-minute introduction, please.
Thank you, President Kerry, fellows and guests. The Rotary Club of Wellington Charitable Trust is a heck of a lot easier to understand and follow than the calendar, I can assure you. So, sorry mate, which one? Top one? No? Right one. What we're going to cover is a little bit of a reminder of where the funds have come from, what the club and the trust have supported in Kerry's year, and we've talked a part of that already before, so I'll go through that quite quickly, and a little bit of opportunity for some feedback. So, if we have a look at where the funds came from, the trust was established way back in 1984, 32 years ago. And it was each year or every few years, small amounts of money that were gifted to the trust by members of this club, trusts associated with families and members of this club, some external grants, UD Finance, etc. And collectively, over time, by those investments and some funds raised by the club members going into the trust, retaining the capital and return on those investments so that it compounded over time, and then a substantial amount of money from the Salmon Fund and the Bernie Knowles Fund, we've built up those trust funds to currently being worth $1.307 million. That includes 45k that's in there for the Centennial Funds at the moment. It's important to note that it's come from a lot of smaller grants from generous individuals and previous members, from other trusts and bequests, some fundraising and retaining investment returns. During Kerry's year, we've added to the income that the trust generates. So the trust was able to put aside $70,000 in this year to be used for community grants. about $20,000 that's raised from the Sunshine Box, and we talk about this reasonably often, that you can put money into that Sunshine Box and get a tax refund. If you do it with the slips or the regular pledgings, you can put $10 in there and it'll only cost you $10 less tax, so $6 or $7. It's a good way to keep putting money into the trust. The Sunshine Box funds, the fundraising from Jumbo Tennis, the fundraising from the singers this year. There's been some personal donation by club members for individual things. There was about $1,500 for shelter boxes for Nepal when we had the crisis in Nepal. But more recently there's been another $3,000 go in there for sponsoring an Ethiopian doctor who I'll talk about again in a moment. And we had some carryover of trust funds from last year that weren't spent, $46,000. So we've had about $177,000 as a club to think about giving grants this year. These are some of the ones I've talked about previously, but you can see there's a wide range of things in there, from surgical research, from Ryla scholarships, the Samoan Garden Project, emergency kits, helping with an operation for an overseas child through ROMAC, City Mission, Te Haupai, Mary Potter, all of those things, plus the $10,000 for the Akina night that we had for the sponsorship of those awards. The Forum Underwrite, some youth awards and science scholarships. Autism New Zealand, $10,000. Marine Education, $10,000. We put $2,000 in to help the Scope team get established for that younger club membership. Junior tennis in the Wellington region. Wellington Free Ambulance, we made an initial commitment of the money from the Singers fundraising, but we have subsequently added another $5,000 for that. The Sky Hydrants project, that's for water purification in the Philippines, that particular project. And then emergency response kits for Fiji. And more recently, that additional $5,000, the restorative justice for elder abuse work, $6,000. Glaucoma research, $4,500. We've underwritten the 3D printer going into Linden School. There's some rodent control money as part of the tree planting in Mount Victoria. And then there's the $3,000 I was talking about for the Ethiopian doctor. Now this money's come about from club members who have been supporting through the Refugees Supporters Network this doctor to get his recognition of his ability in study so that he can practice in New Zealand. So there's been costs for exams and professional qualifications so that he can complete and get back into the useful role in the workforce. Now, we haven't actually paid that money across. We're just about to. If there's anybody else in the club that would like to help contribute to that, to help pay these fees, feel free to do so on the slip today, or see Helen Elgar or myself or Derek Gill. So in total, we've spent about 140 of the 177,000 so far this year. There's a little bit of money out of the Salmon Trust that hasn't been identified for a cause yet, but that will cascade into next year if we haven't found something for it beforehand. So that's a quick summary. That's 170-odd thousand of dollars doing good in our community, both Wellington and New Zealand and international. One of the things I thought it would be good to just draw attention to and to think about. I've been involved in the trust now for a number of years, and I've been involved with the club for a number of years, and to my knowledge we have not in that period actually had a fundraiser with the specific purpose of just adding more capital to the trust. The thing about adding capital to the trust is it provides something in perpetuity in terms of an income stream off that capital that can be used by club members every year for what they think is a current good opportunity. And if we think back to the amounts that have cascaded in over the years to get to where we are, if we could add to that and make a difference so that future members have even more funds each year, I think it would be a good thing. So wearing my hat as incoming president in a year or so, I thought it would be worth just asking the club to give me personally some feedback about your thoughts about us as a club having a fundraiser specifically to add capital to the trust. Not forgetting, at any time you can make personal donations, tax deductible, to the trust. You can organise through your will to bequeath money to the trust as well. So that's our club trust out there each year doing good in our community. Thanks.
Where's Laurie?
Laurie's not here today, Kerry.
Right.
Next week for Laurie, I think.
Okay. So just before we break for fellowship time, I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about the other evening, the Paul Harris fellowship evening. So we're not going to have so much fellowship time today, but I note that for those of us who were at Premier House, it was an amazing evening of fellowship. The Prime Minister was in good form, and I think everybody had a great time, and I've had pretty amazing feedback. And for those of you that weren't there, I'll put the citations on the website when I do the website this afternoon. It will be up there later this week. But to remind you, the new recipients of Paul Harris Fellows or Fellowships were Lee Wilkinson, Yui, where's Yui? So Lee, we all know, Yui, we all know, Sue Patterson, who hasn't been able to attend Rotary for some time due to ill health. She received one not just for the commitment she's made to Rotary, but for the huge commitment she's made to the arts community. Sue's announced her resignation from Executive Director of the Festival, and she finishes on the 30th of September. The other two recipients on the night were Patrick Mercado and also John Gibbons, two of our Rotarians who do an enormous amount of work just quietly without getting a lot of recognition. So they got their recognition the other night. I know Patrick's still blushing every time I mention it. So thank you again for everyone who turned up. Congratulations again to our new Paul Harris Fellowship recipients. Now there was one person not there the other day, and I'd like to give out the Paul Harris Fellowship today. This last recipient, I know that in other years people have made you all guess, but my writing's not as good as that. So Martin Matthews, who is with us today, joined Wellington Rotary in 2006 under the category Department of Culture and Heritage. He's been the chair of the membership committee since 2013 and has served on the fellowship and the membership committees, and he's sponsored one new member. Martin is intelligent, competent. He tells me he wasn't there because he was sorting out Auckland's transport problems. So if he can do that, that makes him intelligent, okay? And competent, and understands the